And we are very, very, very much live finally. We've had a few technical issues, but we are here with your Saturday night's edition of Fleetcast. And the cat is finally out of the bag on who we have joining us in Fleetcast tonight. And it's Jill, who, for anyone who doesn't know, she's the assistant GM for Mercutio, one of our IFS free games, Nova games, and she's one of the community champions for our community. And for anyone who didn't get the hint, pink, it's our community department colour. But how are you both this evening? Are we all good?
We are good here, yep.
Yeah. And
as long as the technology holds out and we don't have glitches, we're good.
we should be good. We should be good. But yes, I think everybody's here. But everyone was guessing in the chat on who the mystery guest could be. But yes, it isn't Batman. It's very, very close. But Jill, welcome to Fleetcast. How are you doing here? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Yes, now that we've got some of the technical issues out of the way for this evening, we are very much good. Chris is saying he can see it all, he can hear it all. I'm hoping that means that we are absolutely fine and we are live.
Here, so I think we're all set.
I think we are. Once. Yes, we are all here because we can see that they can see you. But yes, so this is Jill's first experience of a live episode, a video episode, because she did appear on one of the ones that are still in the vaults, which is going to be an audio special episode if I ever finish editing it.
Yes, we should have some of those come out of our vault later.
Well, there is. I've uploaded tons this week. I've uploaded I think 4 episodes this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've got another one to upload, which was the last week's episode for Doctor Who, and then I'll upload this one together. So yeah, hopefully.
Sweet.
But yes. But for anyone who was listening or watching at the beginning, what do you think of our new song? You guys, have you seen the new song that's been?
I listened to it in Discord. It is amazing.
Yes, it's amazing.
Thank you to Star Army.
Yes, from Wes from Star Army for giving us that image, the music and the video, that there is a version of it, but it's going to be our new theme song. I'm kind of getting D&D vibes from it. It feels very D&D, which I think as I'm going on a D&D journey, I think it's quite apt. But yes.
Oh shoot, we do have that happening later.
We do. After this, some of Atlantis crew we've got a Star Trek Online, no, Star Trek Adventures after this. So this should be it's going to be quite a fun-filled evening for everyone. But yes.
So our esteemed guest, what did you think of the song?
Actually, I haven't listened yet. I was spending most of my time making sure I was ready for this, so I will go back and listen after we're done, but I haven't heard it quite. I just saw a mention just a little bit ago. I think Becca's mentioned or somebody's mentioned in the chat.
Yes. It lives up to every standard that you would expect of Star Army and what they do. So
then I expect to enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
For anyone who's wondering, it will be on the end, and we'll probably have it as a short, so you'll be able to see it in all its glory. But yes, getting on to this episode, it wasn't what I expected, because if anyone who'd seen the previous episode, I was expecting it was D&D because it was the Beholder. It very much wasn't that.
No.
I don't know if I went in expecting anything. I did watch so I started watching, well, let me back up a little bit more. I had never seen the animated series until I started listening to the podcast, and I was like, all right, I'll go give it a try. Yes. And so I watched the first 4 episodes in a row, and those were good.
Those are
what was the one that y'all really played up, the second episode?
Yesteryear. Yes.
Yesteryear. It was very, very good.
It's the only episode of this series that was always considered canon in Trek.
Yes.
Right. So, but I hadn't gotten a chance to continue on yet. So I watched the previous episode. They're mostly episodic, not really
Yeah.
continuing.
Very
But
much so.
just in case there was any references, I went ahead and watched the episode before watching Eye of the Beholder. But I didn't really have an expectation for the plot going into it.
The episode before Eye of the Beholder is, if anything, more of a curveball than any other in the series. Because I don't know, do you know Ringworld or Known Space or any of the Larry Niven sci-fi books?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, that's he actually adapted a story that he wrote in the setting that is part of Ringworld.
Okay.
Into the slaver weapon. In fact, the character that Spock is standing in for later becomes a fairly important character in the Ringworld setting and retells this story from his perspective.
Okay.
40 years on in books, So yes, if anything, the last episode, was a major curveball, but it was great because it was, one of the sci-fi writers of the time getting a crack at the series.
Which I'm finding with a lot of these episodes, it's quite famous authors or sci-fi writers that are writing this, and it's so interesting to see the different styles in these episodes, because it kind of very much goes into the philosophy of all Trek is good Trek, and I'm finding so many good points in each of these episodes, and I really, really enjoyed this episode. I looked at some of the reviews for this, and I was really disappointed by some of the reviews. Like, some of them were like, "Oh, well, it's like this episode, it's like that episode, it's this. You've not got this character in it. You've not got that character in it." And I was like, "It's 25 minutes, and it's a kids program. It's not meant to be that deep." But I did enjoy this episode. And I'm gonna read off sort of what the kind of plot was at the time, what they said the plot was going to be. It goes, the disappearance of a scientific team lures the USS Enterprise to investigate the Lactra 6, or we at 6 on there? Seven. See, my Roman is not quite as good. The starship Ariel is located there and abandoned, with its captain having transported to the planet's surface. So it's very much not D&D, but it feels like it's the plot of 50% of Star Trek episodes going into it, because the amount of
I'll wait till we get further on, but I saw I saw a lot of similarities between another sci-fi show, a specific episode, and this one, and I won't give it away yet for, but when we get more into it, yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I think I've seen this before. And so it was interesting in that way, and the other show maybe took this for some inspiration.
It's entirely possible. TAS has been an inspiration to a lot of sci-fi. I mean, the bug ship from the first episode of TAS, if that wasn't an inspiration for Lex, I don't know what was.
Very, very much. But shall we get into this episode?
Sure.
Yeah.
Our opening trivia of the week.
Okay.
The writer for this episode was David P. Harmon. Those who are interested in the original series will probably recognize his name as the author of The Deadly Years and A Piece of the Action, which are two fan favorite episodes, which of course our dear Becca has never seen.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that.
Yes,
we're going to work on that.
We've only got, what, 8 more episodes left?
About that, yeah.
Yes, because we've only got 2 more left of this series, so it's about 8 more episodes, and then we are going to start the original series from the beginning, and I will get my flags because I think I'm going to
Yes.
need. I'm gonna get a couple of red flags because I feel like I'm gonna need them. I'm gonna have
Yes.
I'm gonna have different levels of red flags. But yes, this episode.
Yes.
What have you got any more trivia for us for this
Well,
episode?
actually, there's two small pieces.
Okay.
One is the reason for the predominance of pink and purple throughout this series as a whole, even when it wasn't quite appropriate. It's because Hal Sutherland was colorblind.
Oh.
That's why the Kzinti were in pink and purple. That's why some of the other creatures are pink and purple. That's why
I noticed the tribbles were pink.
Yes. And that's the thing. Because he was colorblind, he didn't notice that the tribbles had turned pink.
That's hilarious, and I hadn't
Ah.
actually thought of that.
Yes. And something I've pointed out, at least to Becca, is that on a very popular Star Trek website, Exaspris Scientia, Bert Schneider's site, this is the number 5 worst episode of TAS, according to him. Immediately, the list is Eye of the Beholder, Magics of Megas 2, The Infinite Vulcan, The Survivor, and The Slaver Weapon.
Still the episodes alike.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, The Survivor, come on, The Survivor is a love to hate.
Yes, but I very much I don't think I've without going through my scores because I tried to get my scores all together this afternoon.
Yep.
I don't think I've had a really bad episode apart from that one that had all the red flags, which is the one that we were discussing earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I will admit I going through my scores, I also realized, it takes a lot to buck me off the average. It takes an episode that really gets me somehow. Obviously, there's Yesteryear that's a 6 out of 5. I like the Slaver Weapon because I like the Kzinti.
Yes.
Mud always leads to a good episode. The Tribbles obviously lead to a good episode. So yeah. So I guess we can just kind of hop in. We've gotten to Lactra 7, and we're orbiting this planet. Kirk gives a briefing, which oddly comes out muffled, at least on the DVD version. I don't know if they've touched up the audio at all.
I don't think they did. I don't think it was muffled on the Netflix version. I did have to watch it twice because I got a bit distracted the first time. But
so did I.
I don't think it was muffled. But yes, we got to the briefing room, and we've got the best thing about this new series is the technology and the imagery and how they kind of use it. We've got like the imagery of the desk, and we've got the person appearing out of the desk.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love the briefing room.
Yeah.
It was not muffled on. I watched it on Paramount Plus, which is what we have here for that, and it was muffled.
So I'm guessing it's probably been retouched.
Yeah, probably, because it sounded on the DVD version at least like they recorded it over the phone.
Oh,
who knows?
It wasn't perfect, but it's Kirk's initial captain's log, where he's talking about the 6-person ship, the Ariel, and so on. Now, that briefing room scene, if you could pull that up, because there is one line in that whole scene that gets on my nerves so much. I mean, there's good dialogue in it, but there's one that just... And since you're laughing, Jill, go for it.
I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, when Kirk mentions about having that Starfleet captain should follow the book.
Yes. It's like
how many times
this is kettle.
I was like, that was the part that I was distracted. I was typing away, and I kind of whirled around, and I was like, "Hang on a minute, really saying that?"
Did Jim Kirk just say?
And it's the fact that Spock has to kind of bring him back down, and it just proves just how good You know,
the
he
chemistry.
he is as, you know, Kirk's opposite. But it just cracks me
Yes,
up that
It
it's
really it makes me laugh too.
this
yes,
episode is very much a Kirk episode, and
yeah.
I'm not too mad about that. We all know that I really don't like Kirk as a character. I don't like him as a
I
character.
I think you've started to warm to him a little
But
bit,
but
though.
I am worried that when we get to the original series, I will go right back. I
I don't
think
know about that.
it's
I don't know
easier.
about that.
It's easier in cartoon because there isn't quite as there's something very different about when I watched it and then when I've watched
Mhm.
this. There's something very different about it. But
Okay.
the part that gets me in this episode as we go forward is the fact that all three senior officers beam down.
Yeah. After he calls them
Uh,
out for doing that on the aerial.
I do not get it. It is definitely the pot calling the kettle black there. And but what I do like is I am loving absolutely Bones in this episode. I am loving the fact he is my sassy, sassy Southern guy.
Oh God, yes.
He is
Um,
so sassy, and I love it.
on the other hand, they call back to one of my favorite speeches from TOS in that briefing scene when Bones says, "Jim, it's still risk. That's why we're out here, Bones. Yeah, that's why we're here." Calling back to the "risk is our business" speech, um, which that is a highlight of Trek dialogue. That one and weird is part of the job.
Yeah, which I kind of get, and I feel very much like in our writing we kind of we explore the weird part because it's very much like
Yeah.
an episode of Trek. We are there just for the weird parts. You know, we don't always
Yes.
write the downtime, the you know the things outside of the weird. And I actually feel like some of these episodes are very much like some of the missions that we do. That it's very we don't see outside of that.
Well, remember that this is happening.
Yeah.
In the real world, it was happening basically at the same time as the original zines. I think we're counting down months at this point to the birth of Mary Sue. If we didn't, if she's not already here,
Well, yeah, true. But yes,
because
so they're on the planet, and this is where I got a bit excited because I was like, oh, I know these things, I know that, I know that, I know that. And
mm-hmm.
obviously we've got what you've called the boiling sea beast in the images. And
Yes,
I did have a good chuckle at this. I really do
yes,
love how you label some of these photos for me.
I'm glad.
I really do appreciate that because it does
Yep,
sometimes make me chuckle. So yes, so they start exploring the planet, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and they kind of start meeting all these different wee beasties that some of them are familiar.
yes,
can I insert something
Go for it.
here?
of course.
Because what I noticed, I totally missed the fact that it was all three senior officers down there with nothing else. But what kept getting me was, I know this happens sometimes, but it seemed particularly more heightened was the bickering between Spock and McCoy. Like there was a lot of times where Kirk was like, all right, let's bring it back to here, guys. And
Gentlemen.
it was just like, is it me or was there more this time?
It does feel a little bit heavy in this episode.
Yeah.
But
And like even Spock seemed to be given as good as he was getting. And
Spock, when Spock gets rolling, he is a sassy bastard. Okay, I mean,
yeah,
it's not as good as Spock versus Q, but he can give.
Very
yeah.
much. There is a lot of back and forth, and I think it's very much
Yes.
more noticeable in the animated series.
Yes. In fact, one of my favorite things though is in the 25th anniversary game. There's more byplay as well, and in fact, at some point, I may play that for the stream or for video, just because there's some really good dialogue in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yes.
Now,
Go-
the next image after the boiling sea beast, I want to call this out because this is one of those things that I love about TAS when it hits, is the detail work that goes in. We see the captain's braid, actually on his arm. We see it, and it's accurate to what it should be.
Yeah.
And when you look at, McCoy and Spock, they've also got their commander stripes.
Yes.
It's just a nice touch.
We say this every episode that the imagery is very, very well done. But I do think this episode definitely deserves a bit more kudos because of the detail like that. Because they could have done it very simply. They could have just done it as a yellow arm, yellow sleeve, and that be it. But they've actually put that thought into it. And for this time, I don't think of any other cartoon that does that type of focus on the lore, because I've been watching a lot of different programs, like from
Hanna-Barbera.
I've been watching a lot of those cartoons recently because I found a bit of a passion for Caveman and
Captain Caveman and
Captain Caveman.
Love it. Absolutely love it. That is my new addiction.
Okay,
but you don't I watched it when I was a kid. But you don't get that kind of imagery and that kind of level of detail in those. And I've got to give us a find that the animated series artists are awesome. I think, and I want to do an episode at the end. I want to go and look at what other work, if we can find out who they are. I want to see what other work they do.
Well, it's Filmation Studios.
Okay.
Because you can have.
One of the things I didn't realize before watching this that Filmation did the animated series, but as soon as you mentioned it in one of the early podcasts for animated series, my ears perked up because I know Filmation for He-Man and She-Ra. And and I talked to Becca about this offline, and when I started watching, my jaw kind of dropped because a lot of the animation is very similar to He-Man and She-Ra, and even some of the sets, the Lorelei code. Not only did most of the women look like She-Ra, but the setting was very much like that golden weave castle thing that's in the backdrop for She-Ra. And it very much harkened back to that. Every time they do a close-up, a super close-up of one of the guys, or even Uhura, at the edge of the screen, sometimes half cut off, I'm like, I recognize that from He-Man and She-Ra right away. The eyebrow lifts and everything, there's so much that I saw in that, and it's fun because those are some of my childhood sacred memories. I was so into She-Ra, and so that has made this fun to watch as well.
I'm glad that you're enjoying this.
I'm very glad that you
I think I've actually accidentally unlocked a core memory for quite a lot of people watching this episode, because all I can see on my screen is Captain Caveman. Oh my god, Captain Caveman. I just hear the yell, and just all of those things, and I'm absolutely amazed that Emu, who is from the Netherlands, is actually one of the people that are jumping on this bandwagon.
Captain Caveman definitely.
It was translated, and he's saying that they didn't translate that. So but that's amazing. But yes, back to this episode.
Yes.
Where are we?
In this episode, the flying dragons looked like stuff out of She-Ra. Sounded like like some of the birds and stuff you would have seen in those. So
exactly.
And in one of those other episodes, I think I could have sworn I heard Skeletor laugh.
You did.
So there's all of
you've
those.
Heard Skeletor's laugh. You've heard the screaming birds from She-Ra. Some of the roars have been Battle Cat.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that this is actually before He-Man and She-Ra.
Oh yeah, much before.
By like what, 12 years, somewhere in there.
He-Man was early 80s. I think She-Ra was mid 80s.
Yeah, She-Ra was mid 80s, and oh god, Thundercats was Hanna-Barbera though, I think. But actually, what you're seeing is kind of the evolution between Archie into what would become He-Man, Master of the Universe, and She-Ra.
Yeah.
So a lot of those sounds are coming from the stock library that they had. I mean, the most interesting sound in this series to me so far has been the one from yesteryear, where they used the Godzilla roar. Straight up used
which leads perfectly into was that the same sound as what was they used for the Desert Dino Monster?
No, the Desert Dino Monster is using a noise from one of the stock libraries, and it is kind of used as a lizard beast later, but I forget which one. It was one of the ones that was in Masters of the Universe. One of the things that was used when they went out into other worlds and so on. But yes, this Dino Beast comes up, and we don't really get a scale on it at first.
No, not at all. But, and then obviously it kind of attacks them, but
yes,
Kirk and Spock get to safety, and then we kind of realize that there's no bones, and I was like, what's occurring here?
Yep.
And then we get the fact that Bones is trapped under the beast. He's trapped under the tail, and they could have picked any character for this, but I think it is really so perfect for him, and the fact that he gets so flustered and annoyed over it. It's just.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you if you were caught underneath a dinosaur tail?
It's just
honestly, I don't think I'd survive that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd survive.
I mean, he was like, it was getting a little hard to breathe under there. I'm like, I don't think I'd have been breathing under there.
Yeah, I would have accepted my fate, to be fair.
I mean, that screaming before that, I don't know if that was actually DeForest Kelly screaming muffled, if they did something to his voice.
It could be.
But it sounded like it could have been.
It could have been.
I love, they show him with the tail, and they show his legs kicking, like, you can almost hear him going, "Get this thing off me!"
Yeah, and then obviously,
I'm a doctor, not a pillow.
Yes, yeah, you could have really kind of see that, and then obviously you get the kind of scale finally for this beast. You don't actually realize until they kind of pull the camera back.
Yes.
Kind of the scale of this beast, and it is huge. No wonder why
it's Godzilla.
Yes, no wonder why. No wonder why he was squished.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so they've met lots of wee beasties, because Chris likes the fact that I say that. In lots of different environments, and they're like,
I wouldn't say these are wee beasties though.
It's Scottish, man. You've got to understand the term, the wee beasties. You've got to get it.
Now, I also want to call out when they open the next scene, because of course, this being a cartoon and so on, there were commercial breaks. When they open the next scene, I love the way that they're, upside down. Obviously, it's so simple to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just light blue background and the three models upside down.
Yeah.
But it does such a good job of showing us that it's a reflection on water, and that the water is like super clear.
Yeah.
The visual storytelling,
which they kind of comment, don't they? You kind of get you get the impression that the water's far too clear. And Spock starts to do scans on it and things like that. But yeah, I kind of find at this part you're still kind of a little bit confused about what is going on. There's lots of unusual environments, and then obviously they are captured. Oh wait, no, we've got the return. We've got the return first. The return of my purple flying guys.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love.
Literally in my notes, it's the return of the purple flying beast.
Yes. For anyone who knows, this was one of my favorite parts at the beginning of this series
Yeah.
it's my little purple friend. And he's
Yes.
back. But then that did make me go, what's it doing there? Why is it there?
There you go.
Why is it so far from home? I was like, what is going on? Why are there different environments? And then I went to myself, this feels a bit like a zoo or a safari park.
Doesn't it though?
Yes.
They were even mentioning that you would not find these types of environments so starkly changing from one to the next.
Yes.
You would not find that in nature.
No.
Yes. And
Right.
then obviously
unless the juxtaposition is intentional, and because they comment terraforming is normal. Hint, hint. We're gearing up for Genesis. It's going to be a few years.
yes.
We're gearing up for Genesis, and we have and Spock goes off about unless the random pattern is the pattern, and McCoy gives him the gears again of, can't you just say anything straight out?
I was kind of with him on this one because the
Yes.
whole, it's pure. It's too pure. And it's like, okay, but what are you getting at here?
Like, Spock, explain.
Just say it.
Yes.
Why don't you just say we're in a goddamn zoo?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then they are grabbed by the Lactrons.
Yes, and now we get the Lactrons,
which
now,
I absolutely love. I really
the
love.
designs on them are great. They're the elephant-nosed slug design is just, they're almost cute.
Yes, but I have to, as we're doing this, I feel like I kind of need to throw up the image that Chris made for us because it's pretty
Absolutely.
much it's the same image.
Well, actually, it's going to be a little bit later that we're going to have that image.
Yes,
exactly.
But it's a very similar image of me,
Throw that one
Endy,
up.
and obviously he didn't know who you were, Joe, because I kept your secrets.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's basically our heads superimposed onto.
Yes, and yes, Emu definitely. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it.
Yes. So they are taken.
We'll be getting.
They are captured, which is
Chris. Yes, you're right. It does. Oh my God, Snuffleupagus. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
I can see it.
Very.
Chris has promised you an updated version though, so he will update the version that he's got.
I'm good with that.
Yes, that'll be great. But yes, it is absolutely Snuffleupagus. Sadly, yeah. But like I said, what do you think of them, Joe? Because you haven't been watching as much.
They were big slugs, and
Okay.
like of an unusual color or whatever. But it's I don't think I had extreme opinion one way or the other. It was just like it was kind of odd that this was the creature that was bringing them to to where they're bringing them, but and that it wasn't something that seemed a little more sentient, I guess.
Yeah, which I really like that.
Yeah, no, it's good at like expanding what we think of as intelligence and stuff like that.
Yes, it's absolutely one of the best things about TAS is the amount of stuff where they make an effort to do things they can't do in live action.
Yes,
definitely.
It's very much my favorite part of it.
Now, when they get brought to this zoo center city, I don't even know what it is. The next thing, I was a little bit, I guess, disappointed. It's only 5 square kilometers.
Yeah, it felt a little bit too small for what we later find out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was maybe them not thinking big enough as writers, or whatever, or we in this episode we didn't see like there are other cities, and this was just the zoo.
That's possible. But yeah,
But
it's just
yeah, it didn't quite vibe. But obviously they've been brought to the zoo. Um,
wait a minute. I just realized which episode I'm thinking, but you were saying, Joe? Sorry.
I was just considering. I had watched this a couple times because I've never done this sort of thing before, and so I was like, the first time I was
Mhm.
taking my notes, and then I was like going through and like seeing the plot as a whole or trying to, and it's like they talk about how they're bringing them in, like this is the zoo here, this city, if you will, or
Yeah.
whatever, and but the whole journey that it's been to there has been like they mentioned habitats that were too close to each other. So like, have they been in the zoo the whole time? Like,
I think that's the implication. Yeah.
yeah,
so
that's
then
kind of what
like,
I got.
And that
yeah,
this is
so
the zoo
then what
center.
is this like besides they mentioned like the little quarantine area, but it's is this the indoor part of the zoo and
I
what they've been through is more of the safari drive, like you said
we
earlier?
were on we're going into the monkey house.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
The
yeah,
five
pretty
millimeter
much.
wide monkey house.
Yes. But yes,
Um,
they kind of get inside. I'm kind of thinking the best way to describe what kind of happens afterwards. Because obviously they're kind of inside and they're gelled, like
mhm.
they're in
They look like they're in a
quarantine.
little tunnel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of very much feels like they're in quarantine.
Yeah. In a kind of a prison cell. I will admit the one thing I really don't like about the animation of this episode, and it's one small silly thing, and it comes up 3 times. They don't animate the force fields. They
Yeah,
don't give any
You
indication.
can't tell.
Which normally in this series you get that yellow haloing effect.
yeah,
With the life belts, with shields, with other stuff.
Or
But
some
in
sort of
this episode,
shimmer or something.
exactly,
Yeah.
and yet in this episode, for some reason, it's just, hey, there's a force field here.
yeah. It did feel slightly like maybe they'd forgotten, or maybe this episode was done out of order of other ones. I
Mm,
don't know. Yeah, that kind of thing was very much missing. I kind of half expected, my favorite thing of like the life belts or
yes.
something like that to come and save the day.
Well,
But there was like none of those usual effects that we've grown to love
exactly.
watching this series. But obviously, we do find out a little bit about the electrons here. Obviously, that they've got intelligent capacities far beyond the Vulcans, humans. And obviously, it brings up Spock's Spock's telepathic abilities again.
Yes.
That
We
obviously,
we we almost we get like half of a hail Spock.
yeah,
We get the facial expression of a hail Spock.
yeah, we kind of do get a little bit. We do kind of get a little bit of a hell Spock, but it's not a full hell Spock. So
No.
there's none of the none of these movements. It's kind
Yes.
of all
Sadly.
it's all kind of
So
that. But yeah, it
now,
kind of just felt a bit off.
yeah, we get through the quarantine and then they get dragged. And actually, it's really funny. The shot that I pulled is exactly the same frame as the one Chris pulled.
Yeah,
But we see like primitive lactrons. We see other creatures. Because I don't even know, if they meant to be, native animals or whatever of Lactra 7, or if they're more indoor exhibits, or
I
even if they're
didn't.
dioramas.
Yeah, I didn't kind of understand that bit myself. I just kind of
Yeah.
was along for the
But
ride.
but there is a line in this scene, in this little clip, that made my ears kind of perk up.
Okay.
When Spock says, "I find them strangely attractive." I literally was like, Spock, old boy, do you need to come out and tell us something?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, find them strangely attractive. Spock. Spock.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Obviously, they're kind of, yeah, that was a bit like I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit strange. But then the team is installed in a zoo collection with the surviving members of the Ariel, and
Yeah.
one of them is obviously really quite poorly.
Yes.
But yeah, it
But
kind of. I'm going to throw some of the images up that we've kind of talked about, and as we're going,
and
we've got from its.
actually, I'm going to ask this, Jill. Did you recognize Bryce's voice?
Uh,
The woman.
Well, okay, I did, but I've also listened to the episode where you talked about different people doing the voices. So,
Mhm.
excuse me.
Yep.
I noticed that Majel Barrett did a couple of the voices there.
Exactly.
And wasn't Markle also doing?
Yep. Markle was also doing in a more natural version of his voice.
Yeah.
You
okay?
So yes, it was actually kind of funny when I heard that. It was like, wait, yeah, okay, so we're getting one of those episodes again.
Yeah, yeah, and it. I don't feel like they did much to distinguish the voices from other things.
Yeah, your comments about that like you can always like Majel Barrett sounds like Majel Barrett sounds like Majel Barrett. Is true. Is true. I don't know. I thought there was one character that seemed a little bit different, and that was the most variation I've seen.
Marest. Well,
yes,
Marest, yeah. But that's because when she gets the chance, she purrs.
Yeah.
But she doesn't purr in this episode.
No, no. But yes, so we get Markle and Bryce of the Ariel as you've labelled the photos.
Yep.
And to be fair, they kind of look like the actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the interesting things about when they decide to go whole hog on TAS is they do have the occasional just put the actor in a suit, put the actor in animation sort of impact there.
Yeah.
And then of course we try to get contact and find out that when the aliens are quivering in front of the force field, yes, they're laughing at us.
Is that supposed to be laughing?
Yeah.
That was my reaction. I was like,
yeah,
that's not, I would not have picked that out myself until they said.
I kind of guessed it. But yeah, we get halfway to a Hailspock.
Yes.
And we get the laughing Lactrons, and then we find out about, the gal who's gotten a malarial infection, who I didn't get any screen caps of it because it just feels like it's such a small point in the episode.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have any lines while she's sick. She doesn't do anything. All she does
is just a setting for the conversation to continue.
Yeah, for them to get like the med kit back. I kind of feel like that's very much the vibe of her being there. It could have been anybody, but they made a whole they could have made a whole new character.
One of the other things I noticed about this earlier in the episode was that like when the episode opened and they were talking about the crew missing, it took a while to figure out what ship they were talking about. They didn't name the Ariel for like 5 minutes or so. And so I was like, they're listening to they're watching Markel on the screen, and it's like, well, what ship is he with? And so I just thought that seemed odd. Like most of the time you hear a ship's introed at the very beginning of them being talked about.
Yeah. That was a little bit weird, come to think of it. I mean, I didn't even notice it because it just kind of blended in. And the problem is this episode, you had a boredom issue with it. Becca, you fell asleep as well. I fell asleep in the middle of this episode.
I just got distracted. I didn't fall asleep.
Okay, then you got
I was tired. It wasn't.
okay.
It
Where
wasn't
with
bored.
me,
It
this
was-
episode, okay. Some episodes, I stick with them even when they're not going anywhere. This one, I just bounced off it. I had to watch it like 3 times.
Yeah,
And I don't know if that's visual. I don't know if it's the story, but this episode was a lot more boring than some of the others.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
it's a lot of walking around. I feel
Yeah.
like there's not a whole lot of high action. I mean, they get excuse me, the Lactrans capture them, and that's a bit of, oh boy, what's going on. But otherwise, they're just talking most of the time, and they're talking about how to get away, but there's not a lot of fighting. There's not, any high action, and I think that contributes to that kind of a feeling.
That's very possible, yeah. Because it definitely is an episode where it's very, they're just talking, which also could be why there's more Spock and McCoy banter, because this is more of a dialogue-heavy episode.
Yeah.
But then we get the med kit back, thankfully, and he treats the gal who again does not speak, because this is a one-woman episode. Most of them are. You either have Nichelle or you have Majel. I wonder why. I don't remember hearing about them ever feuding during the 70s. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a vibe.
Yes, because it definitely feels like, you'll see some episodes where it's all Nichelle and, or it's all Majel. And like the Mud episode was one of the very few where they were both in the episode.
The Lorelei one as well?
Yep, Lorelei Signal as well, yeah. So it's rarer to see both of them. Because I'll be honest, my theory as to why Majel is such an overbearing presence in this series is very simple. She knew how she got Jean and didn't want to let anyone else have a chance.
Oh, so much. Oh, so much. Yes, that's 100% my views on it. But yes, getting back to the episode, they kind of get the medkit, they restore her, but they also, the medkit had been with their phasers and communicators.
Yep.
And the aerial crew informs them that the Electrons attempt to fulfill their captive needs in response to impressions they pick up from their faults. So it's kind of funny because we kind of then get the scene where Kirk offers to play possum and be the sick person, and I find it quite funny that it's McCoy who's like, okay, well, everyone needs to think on needs to think on this, needs to think on that, and it's just like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a very different type of rescue than what we are normally used to. But I did like that it's Kirk playing the possum in this episode instead of it being anyone else.
But what bugs me about it is that all he does is just fall over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We have seen so many times before that when they need to get out of a jam, McCoy can come up with a hypo of some kind that will do something to somebody. Like back in Once Upon a Planet, they make which was it, Kirk? Yeah, was it Kirk or was it Spock? I don't even remember anymore because it's been a couple of weeks. I've slept since then.
I think it's actually Spock who gets.
I want to say it was Spock.
He gets made yellow, doesn't he?
Exactly. Yes, when they turn Spock into a Simpsons character. Why didn't they just do something like that? Where we can use the medical kit that we just got, instead of just saying, "Oh, this is now the key to show that the Lactrans will return something."
Yeah. And obviously they get their communicator, but what I really like is we kind of get a little bit of foreboding in just this little scene, because we've got the baby Lectern playing with the equipment.
Yep.
And then a couple of moments later, this baby is accidentally kidnapped.
Yes.
Because it's got
I mean,
the communicator, and it's kind of kidnapped. But this baby Lectern is just adorable. I'm not gonna lie.
he is so cute.
It's possibly one of my favorite parts of this episode is
He looks like a big marshmallow.
yes, but I really do love this little relationship between Scotty and this baby Lectern. I
Yes.
really, really do like it. But we find out that the Lectrons on the planet are really quite annoyed that their child has been stolen, and
How
they
would you feel if somebody just,
yes,
how
but
would you
they're
feel if a
very
gorilla just made your baby disappear?
they are very, very annoyed, and they basically, in the only way that they know how, assault Spock. And this
No,
is
Kirk.
Kirk. Sorry, Kirk.
They start ripping Kirk's mind apart, basically, trying
Yeah,
to find out where the baby
and
is.
this is where we get Shatner's overacting
In
somehow,
animation,
somehow coming through in
yes,
animation. I don't know how they did it. I am very impressed. Um,
yes,
but it comes through so
yes.
much, the overacting in this
They
part.
nailed his facial expression perfectly.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Um, and then we get shots of what's happening on the ship, and I love this moment that we get on the ship right before the Lactran comes down to the bridge with Scotty, because we see what the bridge crew is when Kirk isn't there.
Yes, but I do
And
have
for
I
this,
do have one question.
yes,
Where's Johora?
she's not there because Maressa's taking over.
But surely wouldn't she be there as a senior officer if every other senior officer had gone to the planet below?
No, because chain of command puts Scotty in command.
It doesn't vibe with me. My girl should be there.
She should, but it's a Maressa episode.
Yeah, don't we know it? But she doesn't even purr. Can't be her
exactly.
episode. She doesn't even
She
purr.
doesn't even get to purr, which is like, ugh,
Yes.
woman.
But yes, we kind of get the scene before, and then we get the scene afterwards. The bridge, the baby Lectern, and
yes.
and Scotty, which is just so funny. He kind of clears the bridge, and
yes. Well, I love how we suddenly clear the bridge. Honestly, the thing that I love is that we see our bridge crew. We see Maress and Arix there. We see Sulu at the controls.
Even though he has no lines.
Oh yeah, no, Sulu has absolutely no lines, and looks sort of like oh god, one of the Asian characters from a contemporary cartoon there. But he looks like one of the other Asian characters that was in cartoons at the time. And in fact, one of the characters from Archie, even, he kind of resembles.
Okay.
Because Filmation also did Archie.
Yeah.
You're about to say?
I think I did recognize a moment where it didn't look like Sulu. And I'm trying to remember if I thought it did look like someone else, but I was like, ooh, that was a weird angle for that part of the animation. And they didn't pull it off as well as they usually do.
No, it was a bit off kilter.
Yeah.
But then they bring the Lactran and Scotty in. And this is the thing, I appreciate Scotty, because I really wonder, is he even sober during this episode?
No. No.
Thank you. Yeah.
No.
Because it's like, so what do you want? Great. So you can talk, right? Oh, you can't talk. Great. So what can you do? And this baby and Scotty, because I assume it's because Scotty is drunk that he doesn't get affected by the fact that the Lactrans think too fast.
Yes. Yes. And obviously, we have this really quite a funny moment where the baby sends the ship spiraling off, and then
Yes.
we kind of go back to the planet where there's a bit of back to forth, and then obviously
Mhm.
Scotty then appears with this baby absolutely fine.
Mhm. Yep.
And pretty much saves the day by being drunk, because he's managed
Pretty
to get
much.
this, he's managed to convince this baby that he is no harm, and
Yeah.
he's basically is the savior of this whole situation by returning the baby.
Yes.
Which
and at the same time, the baby absorbed all of the knowledge of Starfleet through the
Yeah.
computers.
Yes, the baby could become a captain of a starship now at 6 years
Pretty
old.
much.
And I
But-
would not be mad.
Yeah, but shades of Beecher, maybe.
Yes, and everyone
Right.
in the chat is basically going on how the Electron is a missed marketing
Oh
opportunity.
God, yes.
Because
they
they could have made plushes, but
They could have made
as we know with
plushes.
as we all know with Paramount, they have no idea how to merchandise anything.
They have no idea what merch is, especially
It's a
not Trek
shame.
merch.
They
They
could
have
do
no idea about
so
Trek merch.
much. The amount of
But-
people that have bought a Mupsi I have seen on social media in the last 2 weeks, because they've obviously just released them in the UK, is unreal. Could
Mhm.
you imagine what they could do with other things from Trek? Like,
Just make tribbles. Just make more tribbles.
it's just bonkers. And yes, Emu, Paramount hates marketing, and they hate making
Yes.
money. It's unreal.
Yes, they do.
It's
For some strange reason, they really do hate just making money and so on, and I don't get it.
It
But
really,
then you get back-
it really frustrates me, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a ramble now. It really frustrates me because other fandoms like Doctor Who, Power Rangers, they make so goddamn much. I have spent, look, I will show you what I have spent money on because I am such a big fan. Look, I have spent money on buying
Yes.
a freaking weapon from Power Rangers.
Um.
Could you imagine what they could make for Star Trek?
Well, they've made phasers, they made ship models, they made toys. Micro Machines had a whole line of Trek.
But they have nothing
toys.
Nowadays. There is
Yes.
literally nothing.
That's the problem. But then
you
again,
would think with how many seasons and series running of Trek, it's bonkers.
yeah. I mean, but then again, you want Power Rangers. How about this?
This is what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like how
There we go.
I
Yes,
feel
there you go.
like they have so much. Hasbro have kind of got their shit together. Admittedly, it's going to go
Well,
downhill.
Hasbro is a toy company first, last, and always. Look at how they market D&D. Look at how they market Transformers, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, the whole nine. Hell, they've been bringing in My Little Pony now.
Well, Emu saying, look at Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars
Star
is
Wars
such
has been
a good example, but they have got
Star
Disney
Wars,
dollars.
If anything, Star Wars was merchandised like crazy just from day one. The big thing that Lucas did with Star Wars was that he retained the toy rights and the merch rights instead of letting another studio like Fox handle it. He handled it. And that meant that Kenner had all these toys. That meant that before Empire, there were toys of Boba Fett.
Yep.
There were toys of all of the side characters. At one point, I forget which one it was. I actually had one of the action figures of one of the TIE fighter pilots.
Yeah, it literally, I just don't understand why Paramount, when they are struggling because, they're slowly cancelling Star Trek again, they are not looking at opportunities like this. I just don't get it.
It's because I think it's because they're based on being CBS. They're based on being Viacom. They're based on having all of the media of 100 years under their belts.
But it's not enough nowadays.
And it's also, they're not making anything really new, and they're not going to get their next I Love Lucy with this method. They're not going to get their next Mission Impossible.
Nope.
Or for that matter, their next Star Trek.
Nope. Nothing.
But
they are going to get nada.
But the problem is, and this is something, now I'm going to go on my rant here. Paramount Plus, Netflix, so on, piss me off so much, because I really feel like if Star Trek had been on some of the early cable networks, we wouldn't be talking about it now. If Star Trek had been paywalled, for lack of a better term, we wouldn't be talking about it now. It was influential because it was so massive.
Times have changed. I'm more annoyed that it's not on something like Netflix or Amazon Prime, because that was the biggest downfall of Discovery, is they took it off Netflix. So it was
never on Netflix in the US.
But but didn't you have it on? You had it on a different. You had it on what format did you have it on?
It was only Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Except for the pilot, which was on CBS.
Okay,
Yes.
but so you can imagine, right? The rest of the world had it. So the first 2 seasons of Discovery were really, really. I don't want to say great. No, they were. They were great. I love Discovery. I love the stories in it. I love it. I love Discovery. I am just so disappointed with how they treated the fandom by removing it off Netflix with no notice. Like, literally, we found out, I think it was like 48 hours before.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
No one outside of America could access it.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't access it for months.
Yeah.
I think they put it on.
They were trying to encourage piracy. Don't worry.
Yeah.
About it. They were just trying to encourage everyone outside the US to start using BitTorrent.
Yeah. And that is the downfall of
kind of what Nintendo was trying to do too.
That was the downfall of Star Trek for Paramount, I feel, because they did that.
I mean, it's the beginning of the end. I mean, because the problem is that the best Star Trek on TV before it came off TV and went to Hulu was Orville. Because I have not seen, by the way, any Orville since it went off TV.
I've actually not seen Orville. I probably should, but
you probably should.
But yes, getting back on track of this episode.
Speaking of Orville, though, that's the show that had the zoo episode that I was very heavily reminded of.
Yes.
You said something, because that completely left my mind.
I actually literally have that in my notes. I didn't say it because I figured that you would be bringing it up.
I completely forgot. Please don't worry about overthrowing me or anything. Say it, because there's no telling if I'll forget about it later.
Okay, but yeah, it's absolutely the Orville episode. And knowing that Seth MacFarlane is such a huge Trekkie, I wouldn't be surprised if it was inspired by.
It more than likely was, but yes.
I will admit that episode of the Orville was one of the ones that stopped me from watching for a while.
Okay.
Because let's just say that MacFarlane and I have a difference of political opinion about certain substances and chemicals.
So yes, Chris, that is the one that the 2 guys started smoking, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
No, it was the brownie.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But yes, getting back to this episode, we get a nice an almost hellspock at the end, when the creature tries to explain the baby creature explains what's going on, and what it's been doing, and how it's absorbed the whole of Starfleet's information.
And we get another halfway to a hail Spock, though it actually sort of more looks like Spock with a hangover, I admit.
Yeah, it does look a little
almost
bit like
a hail Spock. Either that or he's doing the Professor X pose.
It's hard to tell. And then
Yeah.
we've kind of got the closing shots of the episode
Yep.
after
Yep.
Spock learns and the Lectrons have let them know that they are most welcome back in several centuries
Yeah.
of time, but we don't find
20
out if that's our
Presumably when they've evolved be more than they are now.
Yes, we don't find out
Yeah.
if that's
Now,
our
this is,
centuries or their
by the way,
centuries.
Right.
this is the only time in sci-fi, or one of very few times in sci-fi, that I actually don't mind their centuries, not ours
Mhm.
bit, because years are relative to a planet revolving around the sun.
Yes.
So, a century on Mercury is about 24 years here.
Yeah.
Whereas a century to Neptune would be 16,500 Earth years.
Wow.
So
it's very dependent. It's very dependent on
exactly.
It is
Exactly.
very,
Whatever.
very
So-
dependent.
But I don't know why Spock doesn't know this, like off the top of his head, because you would think that the orbital period of a planet would be something that he would immediately have on hand, because we can calculate it right now.
Yeah.
We can say this planet is at this Lagrange point or in this orbital path. Its year is this.
Yeah.
But I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
And then
But-
we get go on.
But yeah, most sci-fi, when they do that, it ticks me off so much, because especially when it's your hours, I'm like, no, everybody's hours, because they're based on a second, which is based on the constant of the speed of light.
Are we in Endy science hour? If we hit that part now.
No, we're narrowly dodging it because Endy needs to breathe, and he's going to take a little
Yes.
a nice
So
deep breath. And
so yes, then we
Keep
get on
going.
we get on the closing shots of the planet and the
Yes, and
episode ends.
something that I can't really capture in the screenshots that we use. It's such a simple effect, but I love the wipe effect as we go from Kirk and Spock looking at the Lactrons to the Lactrons looking back.
Yeah.
It's a very simple effect to do with cell animation, because you literally just wipe.
Yeah.
But I like that they actually put in the effort to do it.
Yes. So here is where the change of this episode happens that I haven't told either of you about, because there's three of us and our
Yeah.
scores are out of 10. So I am not scoring this episode. You guys are scoring this episode. So
Okay, fair enough.
what is your score, Endy, and why is that your score?
Okay, my score, as I said, it takes a lot to knock me off average, but it's 2 out of 5 for me. It's not the strongest episode. It's 2 near misses on the Hail Spockometer. Arix gets mentioned but never voiced. Maress doesn't purr. And it just kept bouncing me off, and I had to watch it 3 times to really want to get through it. And when I went to watch through it to get the screenshots, I had to pause it in the middle because it just was boring to me. It wasn't holding me. So it's a 2 out of 5 because it's a filler and it's a little bit weak. And yeah, I mean, there's some call forwards here. We've got sort of a call forward to Genesis happening later on. We've got a call forward to V'ger that'll happen, where the baby comes aboard the ship and learns everything instantly. But it's just not a strong episode on its own.
Okay, what about you, Joe? What is your score?
I think it was a little bit more optimistic. I gave it a 3. But I don't tend to rate things very low. It's like if I'm watching something, I'm probably enjoying it. And if I rate it low, then it's probably really bad. But given that,
the projected Battlefield Earth review needs to happen.
Uh-oh.
So this episode is a 5 out of 10 baby slugs, as Emu has put it on the screen, because that is
Yep.
our measuring. Because the baby Electron was just adorable, and there
Oh
was
God, yeah.
no way
He's
that
the star of the episode.
yeah, he is the star of the episode.
But
I
kind
couldn't
of
not.
cut in. I kind of cut in on you, Jill. So, what was your reasoning behind your score?
Oh, I enjoyed the plot of the episode, but like you said, there wasn't, or like we touched on before, there wasn't a lot of action, and it did kind of drag it down a little bit. But all the different creatures and stuff, like it's I like seeing the different just different creatures, different varieties of the types of animals that you're seeing or beings that you're seeing. So I thought it was good in that respect. Also, I'm still feel like I'm kind of new at this, so I'm not like I don't have the entire book knowledge behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so I feel like in that respect, I probably scored it a little higher than I would have if it was something I was much more familiar with, like Next Generation or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like Emu's comment of there wasn't any action. I kind of feel like this just describes all of the 60s and 70s Trek.
I get that. I mean,
at the moment,
even though there's there's 3 whole fight scenes in this episode, and yet we feel like there's no action.
Yeah, it
right?
just it does feel very much like a filler.
This episode.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's definitely a filler episode here. And yeah, the alien zoo has literally in my notes, the alien zoo has shades of Orville.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, the plot is good. The plot is solid. It's just like you said, it kind of dragged some.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were ways to tighten it up. There were ways that they could have made it a little bit more engaging. But the problem is that the dialogue style that they picked for it didn't quite punch as high as it should have. And this is another one of those issues that I've had with Trek writers and so on coming over here to TAS. They go from writing Star Trek, which is an hour dramatic primetime show for adults, and then they try to adapt their own style and their own Trek style into this 24, 25-minute format aimed at a much younger set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think because the biggest missed opportunity of this episode is when Kirk says, about the Latrans laughing at them. I don't find it funny. When Spock goes, zoo animals rarely do.
Mm-hmm.
If we had gotten a little bit more sort of exploration in the episode about the ethics of zoos,
yeah,
which I mean, I expect that they weren't really ready to have that talk in the 60s.
No, I definitely don't think they were ready to have that talk, and I also don't think they had the time in the episodes to have those talks. I find that with these little mini Trek episodes, there isn't quite as much time unless it's a very, very specific subject. And it was very relevant to the time.
Yeah.
That they have those conversations. But my personal opinion of this episode is it wasn't a bad episode, it was just a filler episode. Yes. I very much would have probably picked the same score as Jill. But yeah, it's
right in the middle.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Yeah, it's a 2 or a 3. It's not.
Yeah,
I can see it being a 2.5. Because really, that's kind of it. It is not it's not the episode you're going to seek out of TAS.
Yeah.
But it's also if you're watching the whole series, like if I turn on my DVDs and I turn on that volume and it's there, I'm not going to stop it, you know?
Yeah.
I've only had one episode where I would do that so far. And and that's one where we have a difference of opinion. Because actually, let me ask this, Jill. What did you see the Magics of Megas 2? Did you watch that one yet?
I don't think I did. Like I said, episodes 1 through 4 are the only other ones I've seen besides this one and the one right before it.
Okay, I would advise watching the Magics of Megas 2.
I'm gonna go back and watch the others that I've missed. I just wanted to be right here.
Yes, I'm going to invite you back because we are going to have an episode at the end of this before we transition to the original series where we go back through everything. And I think it would be really good to have you back for this episode, and anyone else who would like to come along to that episode.
We'd love to have more people along for the ride.
Definitely.
And the thing is that exploring this and having watched this series myself a few years ago. In fact, I watched it first through VHS tapes that I borrowed from the library, and then I bought the DVDs and so on. Having encountered this, that way, and now coming back to it, I love seeing the experience of other Trekkies who have never seen this series, seeing kind of these building blocks of continuity. Because having watched the first 4 episodes, you saw that, they intimate the Spock Chapel ship.
Oh god, yeah. I thought we were going to have an episode where this wasn't mentioned. But yeah, I'm so deep in the ship. Have you seen Strange New Worlds, Jill?
Oh yes, I love Strange New Worlds.
What do you think of the ship? What do you think of Chapel and Spock as a ship?
I like it, and so I haven't watched a lot of the original series. I've seen more than you. But I haven't seen anywhere near all of it. And I tried to watch it once. I think it'd be I think I would like to join in.
Yeah, absolutely.
On this
we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. Once we get to the cage, we'd love to have you. Actually, we'll have to discuss how we start the series. Do we start with the cage? Do we start with Man Trap? Or do we start with where no one has gone before? But that's going to be
I'll figure that out later. But yes.
But so I never in the original series that I've seen, I never picked up on anything between Spock and Chapel.
No, they don't. I mean, I'm sorry. It's all on Chapel's side to me, at least in the original series.
Okay.
It's all on Chapel's side.
Yeah, but I like it. I enjoy it on Strange New Worlds.
I love it on Strange
New Worlds for a romance plot line as well. And I really like the person playing Chapel in Strange New Worlds.
Okay.
Yes.
She's got a wonderful energy about her.
See, what I want as far as a ship to happen, I kind of want Uhura and Sulu. Because it almost happened once, and I would love to see it. And I know it's stuff the 2 tokens off to the side and give them a relationship, but it's not. It's that they're awesome, and they do kind of mesh well.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I have got a couple of just things to remind the community as a whole. I just want to remind people about the fact that we've got hubs. And for anyone who doesn't know what a hub is, I'm going to put the announcement that Dulac put out a couple of weeks back around it. But obviously the hubs are available to write on. You don't need to be on the game. You can just write there. The places that you can write just with other community members. It doesn't need to be a big story. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be anything related to any of the ships that you are on, the games that you're on. It can just literally be somewhere that you write. So, each task force has a hub. You've got the government one in Task Force 13. You've got the Traveller's Rest one, which if you guys have ever wanted to write like a D&D character, the Traveller's Rest is basically a pub in a random city that broke off from England 1,000 years ago, and it's ran by a guy called Mark, who went to change the barrel in his pub one day and woke up in a very, very different place. You've also
So it's our
got
version of the Red Dragon Inn.
pretty
Can-
much, yes.
Can we write a baby slug? Yes. If you can figure out how to write a psychic, Electron, a psychic slug, go for it.
Yes, and you've got the base on Task Force 72 where you can write any
Yes.
game, any character from across the fleet. And then you've got Task Force 29, which has another base, but I'm not entirely sure if that one.
I think the only place that it makes sense for Solar Force or Avalon characters to show up is at Traveler's Rest,
Which
even
is
though
in their base, which is their hub.
But it would be
task
funny.
Force.
It would be funny for them to show up in one of the other.
Well,
actually,
Avalon characters have shown up there.
Yeah, well, X-Men characters showing up in Trek has happened. There's obviously the Star Trek X-Men comic, which has my favorite moment where Bones and Beast are in sickbay together.
Yes, which I
And
feel
Nurse
like they are.
Chapel comes in. Dr. McCoy. Vroom. Huh?
But yes,
you've got Henry Leonard McCoy and Leonard Henry McCoy.
But yes, the hubs are there. They are to be wrote on. You don't need to sign up to any novas. They are.
Sorry, Emu just mentioned Planet X, which yes, that's a novel adaptation. That's a novel that's a sequel to the Star Trek Second Contact comic, which is a sequel itself to First Contact.
There is a lot of sequels in that sentence.
It starts about 5 minutes. The comic, by the way, starts about 5 minutes after First Contact ends. Like, you still have Data with the unskinned face for a while. So, yes.
But yes, the hubs are there to be written. Please go check them out. I will put all the links below. But yes, I don't have anything else to say. Do any of you have anything to say?
I mean, biggest thing is thank you to everyone who's come along for the ride. All of our chat members, Jill, thank you.
Oh, yes, I need to put a picture up on the screen actually, because there was a conversation in Atlantis about an hour ago, about 2 hours ago, which basically was like pod people. And this was basically the image that was created by the ever gorgeous Chris, who is literally fast becoming one of my favorite humans in the universe. It's from an episode that's coming our way very, very soon. But it's basically all the images of the people watching this episode week in, week out. So yes. We could not do that. We could not do this. Yes. Jill, how was this as a first episode for you officially?
Oh, it was good. It wasn't hard. And I had, having the notes obviously is a good idea. But no, it was lovely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I've just I just in the last month or so started listening on the podcast, and so I've caught up, and which is how I listen to my podcast. I find something and then I listen to all of them, and then I go find something else, and every once in a while I come back to catch up again. So yeah, it's been lovely. It's been fun to get into the animated series in this way, because before I really had nothing motivating me to go watch it.
Same.
Yeah.
So
You know,
yeah,
absolutely. I think when I first brought it up, it was like, hey, this is the shortest series of Trek, and it's got some interesting ideas, and I know it's not all canon, so let's see what we can do. And I love that we have inspired so many people to look into it, to watch it.
We really have.
definitely.
We've inspired quite a few people. The viewers want to know they're still waiting on a decision. What is the ship name for
Oh no,
Chatball? And
I put it into chat. That's
okay,
the official decision
I
is
no, it's not. The official decision will be on social media, so you will have to check out our
okay.
Facebook.
Fair enough.
You will have to check out our Facebook page for
Facebook
the vote.
threads, Facebook
It'll
threads, Twitter,
probably
well, X.
it'll probably be just on one to make it slightly easier. So I will
All right.
probably put it on Facebook because that's the easiest, but I will think about
Okay.
it. But yes, from me, I have nothing else to say. So everyone needs to
Yep.
stay lovely, stay logical,